Hello, everybody, and welcome to Commodity Culture, where we break down the commodity space for both new and experienced investors. My name is Jesse Day. As always, standard disclaimer, nothing here is investing advice. Do your own due diligence. And today's guest is the CEO of Aurus, a revolutionary platform that offers a new standard for tokenized precious metals. Mr. Guido van Stijn, it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Jesse. It's great to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you here. And I do want to get started, like I do with all new guests, with the origin story. So, how did you first discover precious metals? How did that lead you to the possibilities of tokenization of precious metals and then to becoming the CEO of Aurus?
Well, it started quite a couple of years back. I was, I think, 24. I'm currently 40 years old. I just sold a company here in the Netherlands where I currently reside. And from advice from friends and family, they say, hey, go into commodities. It's where everything is made of. And it sounded to me like an Indiana Jones story. So I thought, okay, this sounds amazing. I should do something with precious metals, gold, silver, platinum. And it went quite fast from there. I set up a brokerage firm, first quite small. Later, it went quite a bigger operation. I moved to London, stayed there for quite some time, living in London, set up the company there, worked closely with refineries, built out a network. Then at some point, that company was sold, and I moved on to a different kind of business in the mining space. So I started working with mines, precious metal mines, investments, structured finance. And after that, I actually came into the first blockchain kind of business, where we were working on a project for securitizing loans using blockchain technology. And during that period, I met with Dan Carnot, our CTO, and he was pitching me ideas about precious metals. And I already had more than a decade of experience in that area and quite a big network. So from that point, we decided to fly together and in getting this off the ground. And that's how ours started in 2017. As merely a white paper and two, three people thinking how they could make this happen.
Very interesting. I do want to go down the road of the evolution of money, why precious metals are so important, and then I want to get into Aurus and the blockchain side of things a little bit later. So could you walk us through the evolution of money in whatever way you'd like, from the use of gold and silver for trade to the gold standard when we had gold-backed paper currency, and to the fiat era where we are today?
Yes. Well, of course, precious metals, definitely gold and silver, always played a big part in the trade. We go back thousands of years where already gold doubloons or coins were used, of even a little bit of nuggets that they were able to divide. Even bronze coins, of course, were used by the Romans. And the fiat era, where we started using fiat money, there was still, of course, a link to the gold standard, definitely during Bretton Woods, and it made it had a big dependency on the dollar, of course. And when I think in the early 70s, 71, that came to an end, it was very clear that everything was to go to the United States dollar, and a complete trust-based fiat system was therefore created, and also it created the printing of money, the creation of debt, and enormous prosperity and growth along with it, because debt can take profits from the future by capitalizing on it today. It also meant that money became less and less worth. So for the common man, it was not a good deal unless you had a lot of it and you could invest. So I think what you're seeing right now, definitely with debts have been spiraling out of control, and every fiat money system in the past has crashed at some point and have been replaced with something else. And gold is therefore the best reserve currency. Of course, it is still a currency, and it's non-government controlled. It has no voting rights over it. and therefore I think there will be a big role of gold again. It still has a big role, but behind the scenes that not a lot of people see. If you look at the IMF trade settlement that's still going on in gold. So don't think the gold standard will come back anytime soon. I do think gold will come back as a reserve currency in a much stronger form, and I think it will happen sooner than we expect.
So when we look at the state of the current fiat money system, what would you say are the main strengths and weaknesses that make it both appealing for trade and potentially a problem?
Well, the biggest strength, of course, of a fiat-based system that currently is there is that we have the ability to create it out of thin air. So we can act and stimulate economies when shitty things happen during pandemics, during financial crisis, and can act upon that accordingly. So I think that's a very strong case for a fiat-based system. I think if that wasn't there, crashes would be much harder. I think the weakness is that it's controlled by politics and by politicians, and they like to spend money faster than they can print it normally, and that creates the biggest issue, I guess, because that creates inflation and an indirect taxation on the population. And they are the ones to suffer in that case. And you have been seeing this in third world countries for quite a long time, but now we're also seeing it in the Western world, and even in the richer nations like the United Kingdom and also the United States, where elderly people on pensions are truly suffering from higher inflation, which directly, of course, is caused by the government and nothing else.
So how do you see gold and silver potentially returning? You mentioned you think we could see a gold reserve currency, a gold-backed reserve currency. Um, how do you see that developing? Do you think we will see gold and silver as a form of money being traded anytime in the near future?
I actually do. It makes a perfect. It makes a lot of sense. Gold is non-government controlled, and there's a lot of distrust of a lot of people in their politicians and in their government. And if there is 50% voting for one side, there's 50% that voted for another side, and they don't like what's going on with their country. Taking matters into your own hand, having a reserve currency in gold and silver that's available for anybody around the globe also gives a global recognizable currency that people can trade in. So you can trade gold and silver from the United States to Japan or to South Africa if you want, in the same denomination without forex exchange rates in between. So I think it's very important that it's there, because it gives everybody the means to collect wealth and have it under their own control and not be exposed by the governments they like or dislike.
So speaking of having gold as a form of money, the BRICS nations, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, there's other countries that are joining, other countries that are applying, kind of forming this new geopolitical alliance. And it seems that they are full steam ahead with a gold-backed currency. And, the rumors are that they're going to be unveiling it at their meeting in August. So how viable do you think the idea of a BRICS gold-backed currency is? How quickly do you think they could implement it? And do you think that the U.S. will just sit by and accept this, or do you think there'll be some sort of challenge to it, whether it be an actual war, as the U.S. tends to do when their reserve currency or their power geopolitically is challenged, or some other means?
First of all, it's good that it's a conversation topic, of course, and I think they have every right to talk about this creating a gold-backed currency. I don't know still how they will set this up, if it's going to be a currency or if it's going to be in tokenized form. I don't think it will be accepted even by their own population, because people living in BRICS countries also have a very big distrust of their governments. I do think they might use it as a settlement layer, so bringing back gold settlements back. If you, for instance, saw in November 2022 where Ghana announced they want to start paying for oil in gold, makes a lot of sense. They trade with, for instance, Russia. I think they still do. Settling in gold, they have it, they mine it. They don't have dollars. The high current interest rates on the dollar makes it very difficult for these countries like Ghana to obtain dollars. So settling in gold, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's good for them. I don't think the BRICS will use it as a real redundant currency towards the US dollar or euro, pound, or yuan. I think it will be used as a settlement currency. I think that's what they will announce. Like I said, I don't think anybody will use a gold-backed currency that's introduced by any of these five governments, because these politicians are also not the ones with their highest regards. So as a settlement currency, I think they will do it, and I think it will make perfect sense, and I think it will benefit a lot of countries in the regions in Africa, for instance, where they do business with.
Yeah, that is a good point in terms of the distrust of the political class in those nations as well. I think people gloss over the fact that China is basically a dictatorship, and Russia as well is not exactly a free country. So we have to keep that in mind when we're looking at these things. So I think that's a very practical approach to it. We talked about the strengths and weaknesses of fiat. Now let's apply that same framework to precious metals. You've spoken about the strengths already, but what are some of the weaknesses that are holding gold and silver back from circulating as money, from circulating in trade?
Well, I think the biggest thing, of course, is if you talk about money, it needs to be easy to transfer. It needs to be divisible. It needs to be a unit of account, a unit of measure, and a unit of transfer. That is, of course, difficult if you have a bullion brick of a kilo in your hand. The same goes for storage. I mean, you cannot just keep a kilo gold bar in your house and hopefully you can monetize that someday. So it's most safely to store it in one of the more liquid locations like London or Zurich or Dubai. Then you have the transport, of course, and insurance costs. So you need to store it, you need to insure it, and in case you need to use it, you need to transport it. So these are all weaknesses if you look at the precious metals market. The strengths I mentioned, of course, before. It's one of the only assets that's really non-government controlled, has no voting power over it, and is truly scarce. If you look at mining production, that has grades have been dropping for quite a few decades, and new greenfield exploration has diminished. The big mining companies have mostly focused on takeovers and taking over their smaller competitors or mid-tier competitors than investing in exploration. So going down the road, there's a limited supply. And we just talked about BRICS, maybe introducing a settlement currency that will propel the price higher, also will increase demand, of course. So I think these are all very positive signals for precious metals, in this case gold, and will probably propel the price pretty much higher.
Well, let's now move on to Aurus and the tokenization of precious metals. So, for those who are unfamiliar, could you give us an overview of Aurus and how the whole process works?
Yeah, of course. Well, we took quite a different approach than any other project that was ever developed or is still out there. First of all, for my background in the precious metals industry and the network I had, I wanted to create something with my partner and colleagues that will mimic the traditional precious metal market in a digital way. So, getting the traditional market ready for this Web3 era. First, what we did is look at legislation. So instead of creating something, we worked together with the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK in creating a clear roadmap in what we can and can't do, and passed that successfully after 18 months. After that, we built smart contracts, we built a whole system, introduced big partners. We have the biggest refinery in Spain on board, a big refinery in the UK, one of the biggest brokers, listed company in New York. You can all see this on our website, of course. And what we created there is the opportunity for traditional market players to enter this blockchain Web3 kind of space without making this huge investment in technology, education, the whole learning funnel. And this created where they can, these refineries, for instance, in Spain, they can tokenize their precious metals, vault it at a third party location like BRICS or Loomis or Malka Amit, and then can enter the digital space by having a tokenized asset. Well, these tokens are then traded on centralized exchanges, on decentralized exchanges. They can be used in our own app, our DeFi app. The beautiful part is that you can send it with 18 decimals around behind the comma, so you can send literally $10 of gold. I can send it to you in a second or something, with minimum cost. So that makes it a unit of transfer easily. There's no storage cost in the system because there's transaction cost, which will also cover the cost for instance, the refinery to store it. And it's quite a high tech application that's there being used. And for the refinery, so the traditional market, they can enter now, tokenize, and earn passive income because part of these transactional fees funnels back to the refineries that provided the metals. And the other part is going to the holders of our native token RSX. So those holders can stake these tokens in our application, and then they get monthly reward payments in gold, silver, and platinum.
Very cool. Now, I'm hearing the gold bugs in the comments already saying if you don't hold it, you don't own it. So I'm just wondering, do you also advocate for people holding physical precious metals as well as digital? And how can people be ensured that their precious metals are secure when they have a tokenized version of them?
First of all, I'm also an advocate for gold coins and physical gold. I'm an advocate for the entire industry, and I don't think anything should cannibalize a different kind of product. We built this product not for the users that have now a gold bar or like to stack gold or silver coins, which, by the way, I have gold and silver coins myself because I really like to look at them as well. This product was created for a younger demographics group. And if you see, for instance, research from the World Gold Council, we have their former CEOs on our board of the company. There has always been a problem. How can we make a product that appeals again for the younger generation? For instance, in India, that now instead of going for a gold jewelry or a gold coin, they buy an iPhone rather. So how can we create a product that's cool again for this generation, for the younger generation? So where we focus on we have three business verticals. We don't only focus on decentralized finance, but also on non-fungible tokens and gaming. We have a whole business vertical, which we set up with a person that's also on a board from Nintendo, where you can mint NFTs like gold-backed swords that you can use in games. This is going to be launched at the end of this year, and first gaming introducements in the beginning of next year. And if you look at our application itself, it's non-custodial. So all the outflow you saw of the crypto markets last year, where you had centralized entities, centralized systems where people lost tokens, that cannot happen with our app. Our app is non-custodial. You hold the key, so you hold the coin. So it's a similar narrative as what the gold bucks normally say, gold bulls, I mean, normally say, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. It's the same here. If you don't hold your keys, you don't hold the asset. So, albeit the asset is digital, you still hold it because you hold the keys. So there's no interference. Nobody can interfere with it. The application we built is nothing more than an interface that makes you able to connect with the blockchain. How can people be sure that it's there? The refineries that supply the metal, for instance, SEMSA, it's a centuries-old refinery. They don't hold the asset themselves. They need to put it in a Brinks vault, or for instance, or Mocha Amit. And the Aurus Foundation is the one that needs to sign off on these transactions so that we can see, hey, there was a kilo bar, it came in, and now it can be tokenized. There's a custody report, an audit report available on all these assets. And we're now currently implementing a proof of reserve system with Chainlink that will also make the digital audit trail physical. And at that point, you can actually see in your app, hey, I have 10 T-Gold tokens. Where do they come from? Hey, a partly of these tokens is from a bar in London, part is from a bar in Switzerland from this refinery Reyes and was put in this vault at that moment in time, and a part came from in a vault in Dubai. So you have a full traceability of the tokens as well, which makes it very, very transparent, of course.
What do you see as the ultimate potential of tokenized precious metals? Could this actually in the future become a way to transact in gold and silver? Do you see the possibility down the road of certain online retailers accepting tokenized gold and silver, perhaps it eventually coming into the real world where stores would actually allow you to transact? What is the ultimate goal of Aurus and tokenized precious metals?
I don't think you need to see it as the goal of Aurus because we are quite a community-driven company. It's what people in the end want. Do they want NFTs and gaming to be combined, or do they want to pay on Amazon.com with T-Gold? If the demand is there, we will build it and we will provide the technology. It's there. I mean, we are working now to integrate MasterCard in the app, so you have a virtual MasterCard available to almost everybody around the world, and then you can just take your T-Gold. It's already in your app. It's yours. You have the keys, and you can just use your Apple Pay or Google Pay to pay for your coffee using their network.
Very cool. I want to touch on central bank digital currencies to kind of wrap up the conversation because there's a lot of rumors swirling about them. There's a lot of concerns. I spoke recently with Andy Schechtman, CEO of Miles Franklin, on my show, and he said he thinks they may actually back a CBDC with gold. So, do you think countries might actually be moving in that direction, perhaps even in response to the BRICS currency? And would that help restore trust to something that a lot of people are viewing as kind of a totalitarian, dystopian direction for the financial system to be going in?
I can actually answer this quite shortly. As long as money is controlled by politicians, trust will not be there.
Right. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Guido. Before I let you go, do you have any final words you'd like to share about Aurus with the audience?
Well, I definitely think everybody should have a look, even the gold boosted like to invest in physical. I'm a physical bullion investor as well. This is a product that needs to exist besides the physical market. It's to make the demand for gold and silver bigger. It's not taking a slice of the pie of the current market. So it's not competing with ETFs. It's not competing with gold coins or physical bars. We currently have quite a nice offer on the website as well. When you can join the system, you get some nice ecosystem tokens in your wallet. And I hope a lot of people will just try it out, have a look. And we have a customer service team, so if there are any questions, they can always ask them directly in our social media channels or via our customer service desk.
Great. Well, I'll put a link in the description below to the Aurus website and social media channels for people who want to check that out. Thank you once again, Guido, for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge with our audience.
Thank you so much, Jesse, and we'll talk soon.
Commodity Culture is a series on commodities and natural resources. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're always up to date with the latest episodes.